Tupac was born in a rough area. He had to fight hard to get the recognition he got before his death. So in spite of all the conditions that he grew up with, he used that as his strength to gain the financial freedom that he so much desired, to leave the area where he grew up in and made a name for himself in his very short life. The first black person to own and operate a radio station in the whole of the United States of America. This is Africa, the cradle of mankind's birth, where powerful kingdoms arose with stories of worth. A youth-filled land, the youngest population, with diamonds and cocoa from its fertile foundation, exemplary leaders, their legacy told. Nkrumah, Mandela, their spirits bold. From Johnson Sirleaf's Liberia, where freedom lies, and her first female leader, so wise. Let courage and dreams unite as one for a brighter tomorrow where greatness is spawned. In this beautiful, colorful, and friendly domain, greatness awaits, where hopes shall not wane, where tales of triumph weave a tapestry. Welcome to Today in African History. Jesse B. Blayton Sr., pictured here, was born December 6, 1897, died on this day, September 7th, 1977. He was a pioneer African-American radio station entrepreneur. Blayton founded WERD AM in Atlanta, Georgia on the 3rd of October 1949, making him the first African-American to own and operate a radio station in the United States. In 1949, Blayton made history when he bought the 1,000-watt Atlanta radio station, WERD, for $50,000. Blayton changed the program format and focused on the local African-American audience. WERD was a pioneer in programming what he called Negro appeal music, featuring early versions of rhythm and blues music that are not played elsewhere. Although WDIA, established in Memphis, Tennessee in 1948, played music oriented for a black audience, WERD was the only black-owned station to do so at that time. By 1954, there were approximately 200 black-oriented radio stations, but fewer than a dozen were African-American owned. Blayton had his son, Jesse Blayton Jr., as the station's first program director. The younger Blayton had 4 black announcers: Joe Howard, Roosevelt Johnson, Jimmy Winnington, and veteran jockey Jack Gibson, who by the early 1950s had become one of Atlanta's most popular radio personalities. Gibson read daily news that was relevant to the black community. Kind of like me, wink wink. So that's it as it happened on this day in 1977. Jesse B. Blayton Sr. died. He was born December 6, 1897, the first black person to own and operate a radio station in the whole of the United States of America. On this day in 1996, this was the day that Tupac was shot and fatally wounded by a member of the violent gang from California. He died 5 days later. And amongst the suspects was Notorious B.I.G., who denied any knowledge of the shooting. Tupac was 25 years old at the time of his death. No arrests were made in the matter due to lack of evidence, but in September 2011, Dexter Isaac admitted to the shooting. Tupac Shakur, also known by his stage name Tupac, was a legendary rap and hip-hop musician. He was born in New York City, United States of America in 1971 to Billy Garland and Afeni Shakur, both activists of a revolutionary black nationalist organization named Black Panthers. His name, Tupac Amaru Shakur, means shining servant. His mother was in jail when she was expecting Tupac, but she was later acquitted of all charges. His father was largely absent from his life. He grew up in the Bronx and Harlem when he faced the grim realities of gang life, violence, drugs, and sexual abuse at an early age. He joined a theater company by the name of 127th Street Ensemble, where he learned to act. In 1991, he was signed by the label Interscope Records and shortly released his debut album, Tupacalypse Now, an obvious pun, which is a play on words, for the film Apocalypse Now, which is a 1979 American epic war film produced and directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Although his music Tupacalypse Now, his album, did not make it to the top 10 charts, it definitely helped him make his presence felt. His second album was released in February 1993 and titled Strictly for My Niggas, so niggas spelled N-I-G-G-A-Z. The album debuted at number 24 on the Billboard 200, and the deep, meaningful, and sometimes excessively profane lyrics were both the subject of praise as well as controversy. Tupac spoke of his political and social views in his songs and described the thug life he used to live. The album was commercially successful and achieved platinum status. Tupac also formed the group Thug Life with some of his friends. The group released one album called Thug Life Volume 1, which achieved gold status. Now, interesting life of Tupac Shakur, born in a rough area in New York, the Bronx and Harlem. The Bronx, lived in Harlem. His mother was in jail when she was expecting him. His father was absent from his life. This is so typical of a lot of African Americans. Many Africans as well, wherever they're found in the world, in the UK, in Europe, in South America, on the African continent as well. But it seems that, in the United States of America, there seems to be a bigger problem with regards to families that are not together, with drug issues, with gang violence. Yes, I did discuss that in one of my previous videos, and how all of this is indirectly a result of slavery. The fact that people want to show that they want to have a sense of belonging. They don't want people to intimidate them the same way they were intimidated during slavery. You either shrink or you fight back. That is just the reality of life. Whereas those in Africa most of them didn't have to go through these problems. You had the odd cases in South Africa and some other countries in Africa. Most countries during colonialism as well. But colonialism didn't last as long as the problem slavery in America lasted. That lasted for hundreds and hundreds of years. Colonialism in most African countries lasted for less than a century. So Africans were not as affected as African Americans have been. So that is the difference. Anyway, so this is Tupac Shakur. Hopefully lessons have been learned from his life. His short biography that I've read here. There are things obviously in life that we should avoid. There are things that we cannot avoid. Tupac was born in a rough area. He had to fight hard to get the recognition he got before his death. So in spite of all the conditions that he grew up with, he used that as his strength to gain the financial freedom that he so much desired, to leave the area where he grew up in and made a name for himself in his very short life. Okay, so last but not least, also on this day, is this man pictured here. This was the day that he was born. So happy birthday to Reuben L. Brigety II. He is a naval officer, educator, international humanitarian specialist, and diplomat. He was born in Jacksonville, Florida, to Dr. Barbara and Dr. Reuben Brigety Sr. In 1965, his father became the first African American to graduate from the University of Florida's College of Medicine. Brigety is a distinguished midshipman graduate of the United States Naval Academy, earning his bachelor's degree in 1995. While in the Navy, he held several staff positions, including speechwriter and analyst in the Pentagon. He later won a scholarship to pursue a master's in international relations at the University of Cambridge in England, which he earned in 1997 before returning to active duty. Upon deciding to return to pursue his doctoral degree in international affairs, Brigety received a discharge from the Navy in 2000, after which he returned to Cambridge. Of all universities, he went to Cambridge. This is one of the top universities on the planet, where he earned his doctoral degree in 2003. During these early professional and educational endeavors, he honed his expertise in human rights issues and African affairs. Interesting contrast between this guy's life and the life of Tupac. Obviously, Tupac was a lot more famous than he was, but Tupac never lived as long as he did. Look at the difference. He is the son of two doctors, so he must have grown up in a middle class or affluent area. He was a lot more protected than Tupac was. And look at the outcome, So it's very important where we raise our kids and how we raise our kids. For most African Americans, it's not possible to raise your kids in the most desirable parts of town. But if you train your kids, teach them right from wrong, which most of us do as African Americans, teach them by example as well, because they're going to copy what you're doing. If you're shooting drugs, you're smoking, you're swearing, you're dressing, you're scantily clad, they're going to copy what they see. In spite of what you say to them, they're going to copy what you see at the end of the day. So guys, that's it for today. Like I said, this channel is about learning from our checkered history, learning from the good, the bad, and the ugly, and not repeating the mistakes we've made in the past. So hopefully we've learned something from today's Today in African History, and I shall see you bright and early tomorrow, September 8th. If this is your first time visiting our channel and you like what we're sharing here, do not forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bell so that you receive updates of our video uploads. If you have been here before, thanks for dropping by once again. If you haven't subscribed, it would be a nice thing to do to help our young fledgling channel grow. Turn on your notification bell as well, share the video, like the video, and I shall see you bright and early tomorrow. Hasta la vista.